Verdell Washington Robinson graduated with the first class of the A.L. Mebane High School in 1957. She attended the Henryton School of Practical Nursing in Baltimore, Maryland, has a bachelor's degree in nursing from Florida A&M University, and a master's degree in medical surgical nursing from the University of Florida. Mrs. Robinson taught in the Associate Degree in Nursing program at Santa Fe Community College and at the School of Nursing at Florida A&M. She worked as a registered nurse at the Veterans Administration Medical Center, Alachua General Hospital, and the Park Meadows Nursing Home. She worked as a licensed practical nurse at Alachua General Hospital and at Holy Cross Hospital in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She retired on December 31st, 1999 from the state of Florida with more than 31 years of service as a registered nurse. She is a member of the A.L. Mebane High School Alumni Association, the Alachua County Historical Commission, the Alachua County Retired Educators, and many, many other organizations. Welcome, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you.
You know, you sent me some biographical information, and I had to apologize to you for cutting down your biography because it would have taken me the whole 28 minutes that we have to talk about your life and what you've done. We're here today to talk about Mebane High School, but before we do that, I thought maybe we could kind of lay some groundwork to kind of bring us up to when you were a member of the first graduating class of Mebane High School. Mm-hmm. And before I go too far back, can you tell me about Bland? Is it a township or an area or?
It's an area.
Okay.
It's a farming area. It's northwest of Alachua. It's actually in the northwest corner of Alachua County, right up near Union County and Columbia County, the Santa Fe River.
Right.
The Santa Fe River is at the back of the property that my family owned.
How long has your family been there?
My great-grandfather, his name was William Washington, he homesteaded the land.
Is that right?
In 1879, I think it was.
1879?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And
we were, his son, my grandfather, had 8 children, and he raised all of them there, he and my grandmother. And then my dad purchased some land that was adjacent to that property, and that's where we grew up. And it was property that his uncle had sold to a white man in High Springs about, I guess it was 30 years or more, and then my dad purchased it back, and that's where he built a house, and we grew up there.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And
there were, of course, 10 of us.
Where are
8.
you in that order?
I'm number 4. I'm the 4th girl.
Oh.
And then the first boy after me.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So 4 girls first?
4 girls first.
Oh.
4 girls first.
So back in the early, I guess it was the early 1900s, there came a time when a school was built.
The Bland School, is that the one you're talking about now?
Was that the first school?
That was the first school that I attended.
And when was the Bland School founded?
In 1907.
Oh, okay.
And it closed in 1951.
Now, is that the same as Alachua County training?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Well, we need to go all the way back then, and I'll let you tell me how those
Alachua
things.
County Training School was opened in 1922, but there was a man named Jack Postel, who was he was a railroad worker They call him Tough Man. That
Tough
was
Man.
his, yes. He was also tree chipper.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what a tree chipper is, but that's what he did. And he was uneducated. He couldn't read or write. And he, for some reason, was in Atlanta, Georgia because of sickness in a hospital. And he found out that there were schools there for African Americans. And later, that, I don't know how much later, whether it was the same year or not, he was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in a hospital. So I don't know what his illness was, whether it had to do with his job or not. But, and at that time, he discovered that there was a gentleman named, there was a fund called the Rosenwald Fund that helped to build those schools for the African American students. They helped with construction. He did, his fund. And there was another fund by John Slater that assisted with furniture, purchasing furniture. And these were people that would help to build schools for African Americans.
So because this gentleman had health issues, this was how he discovered this information.
Yes, and I still have a question about that. You know, what was wrong with him? Why was he in Atlanta, in the hospital, and in Philadelphia?
So he saw that this was possible.
Yes.
And brought that information
So he
back.
came back, exactly. When he came back to Alachua, he told his neighbors about it. And he came to the school board in Gainesville. You know, that was quite a trip then, probably. and see, you know, to see if they could get some help building a school for African Americans in Alachua. Well, they told him that he needed to sell the school and the property that they had, which was a two-room. There was a two-room school.
And this is
in
the
Alachua.
Ogden School that you mentioned? No, this is.
No.
We'll just put the Ogden School.
We'll
to the
put
side.
the Ogden School to the side.
Okay.
Because then it was, I guess my dad was going to school there at this time.
So
Because this was in 2021.
So this was different from the Alachua County Training Center, or it was still called that, but it was just...
Yeah. The Ogden School was one of the outlying schools, and there was many. You know, there was a school in Bland, a school in La Crosse, a school in Brooker for African American students, segregated, you know, Jim Crow, it was that time.
Right. So Mr. Postel?
Postel.
Postel.
Jack Postel, that's the way we pronounce his name.
So the school board in Gainesville kind of challenged him to...
They challenged him, absolutely. And say, and you do that, sell that property, sell that the two-room house that the few students are now attending, and raise $10,000.
Which was no small sum in
no small sum.
Early 1900s.
And no small feat, I'm telling you. But he did it. What he did was he told his neighbors about it, and he said, he asked all the men to give $10 and all the women $5.
That's great.
And to donate that amount. And they had fish fries, church programs, Saturday barbecues, those kinds of things. And a year into the project, for raising the money, his neighbors and friends and everyone in the area thought that he was pocketing the money because they didn't see anything. And so they say, we'll never have a school. But he persevered. He just continued, and he had a group that continued with him. So in 2 years later, and I read to the day almost, 2 years after the fundraising started, he called everyone to a meeting at St. Matthew's Church, and that church is still in Alachua.
Is that right?
And counted out the $10,000.
My, I got chills on that one.
Yes, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Fun. He couldn't read or write, as I said
Right.
earlier, but he was that concerned about education for his people.
And the school board followed through?
The school board, they tried to up the ante.
Did they?
Yeah, they said, well, 15,000.
Oh, no.
Yes, but then they backed down. They decided to go on along with it, and they did.
So when was it constructed?
And it started in 1921,
Uh-huh.
and they did get money from the Rosenwald Fund, $1,600,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't read how much or see any place where the amount that was gotten from John Slater Fund for furniture, but that fund also contributed. I'm not sure how much. So they started building it in 1921, and it opened in 1922.
Do you know what the facility consisted of? Obviously, it was a much better facility than what it replaced.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do have that information somewhere, what it was exactly.
What were while you're looking for that, what was this, a kindergarten through 12th grade, or what?
No,
who
1
did
through
it serve?
9.
1 through 9.
First grade through 9th grade.
Uh-huh.
That's what it was.
And what would happen when you finished 9th grade? Was there a place?
Now that Lincoln High School here.
Oh, okay.
But by 1924, it had another grade was added, 10th grade.
I see.
And there was Mr. Welch, Furman Welch, who is a well, he's retired now. He's like 95, 98, but he's in Alachua. He still lives in Alachua. But he was principal at many of the schools in the outlying area. Like I mentioned, Ogden School, he was our principal once, and there was a school in High Springs. He was a principal there, and there was one in La Crosse, and I think he was a principal in Brooker. So he went through the 10th grade there, and then came to Gainesville and graduated
Oh, I see.
at Lincoln the other 2 years. But I'm not sure what year was it. I think it was 24 that this school started then going, added the other 2 grades.
Through 10th grade?
They had the other 2 grades.
Oh, okay.
So through the 12th.
And who attended? I mean, do you know how large that initial class was, or how many kids went to the school, or?
They ages 6 through 25
Is that right?
years old
Huh.
were in those grades. So imagine a 25-year-old in the 9th grade.
Uh-huh.
But
Someone
if
who
you
wanted to
couldn't
learn.
read, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I'm not sure of the number of students that attended at that time.
Then A.L. Mebane.
Mhm.
What does the A.L. stand for?
Abbott Leonidas,
Leon-
Leonidas, middle name of the principal that came to ACT, Alachua County Training School,
Uh-huh.
in 1924. The first principal was Napoleon Campbell.
Well, those are some distinguished names. those
Yes,
guys had.
Napoleon Campbell. But Abbott Leonidas, he was from North Carolina,
Oh, is that right?
Gifford, North Carolina.
And when did the school operated for quite a while, up in
36 years.
36 years.
36 years.
And then there came a time when the transition was made from Alachua County Training School to ML or AL Mebane.
Mebane.
Yeah.
Right.
When did that happen?
That happened in 1956. The first class graduated, mine, in 1957. But they started building the school in 55. It was completed in 56, and September 56.
So this was a whole new building?
A whole new building, whole new site. It was a different site.
Now, does the Alachua County Training School still exist,
No.
or is that gone?
No, that's
Yeah.
gone.
Is that right?
That's been gone for years.
But did you go to your first high school years to that?
I
And then
did. Alachua County Training School, I attended from 6th grade because Ogden School in Bland closed.
Oh, okay.
And that's when we were going to Ogden School, we walked from home there, which was 3 miles and back. But we started being bused in 51 when Ogden closed,
Okay.
from Bland to Alachua ACT school, Alachua County Training School.
Oh, okay.
So 6th grade through 11th grade
I see.
is, that's the school I attended from 6th through 11th.
And then when Mebane opened,
When Mebane opened, ACT closed for high school.
I see.
So
But it stayed open.
all
for
of us,
the-
it stayed open for some of the
I see.
lower grades.
And where exactly is Mebane?
Mebane is, the address is it's on Highway 235 and 241. It's between 235 and 241.
And how far was that from where you lived?
Oh, from where? We lived in Bland.
So,
So we were bused still.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The majority of the students
Mhm.
that came to A.L. Mebane and ACT
Right.
were bused from the surrounding areas, from La Crosse, from Brooker, from Bland, from...
So Mebane sort of was the place that you went to high school if you were kind of in those outlying areas outside of Gainesville, kind of north of Gainesville.
Exactly.
And Lincoln is where you went if
We
you
were
were
in Gainesville.
more in that urban area.
Right, right.
Interesting.
Prior to integration. Yep.
What do
prior
you
to-
remember about when you first went to Mebane? What was that
Oh,
experience like?
It was so exciting.
Was it?
Oh, it was, to be at a new school and to be seniors, to be the senior at the new school.
The
But
head of
it
the
just-
head of the school, the
Oh,
seniors.
yes, yes. And a new facility, their classrooms were everything that we hadn't had before.
Mhm. So
we,
it was
we
a,
still
it was a
had
modern
to use
facility?
It was a modern. It was yes. It wasn't used at all.
Uh-huh.
It was built for us. And of
Do you
course
remember
we
your
had-
teachers?
I remember some of the teachers,
Uh-huh.
and of course the majority of them that were there were the same teachers that we'd had
They had come
at
over.
ACT.
I see.
And not only ACT, there were some, the school in High Spring, Douglas, it also closed the high school at the same time that that ACT did, Alachua County Training School.
Mhm.
And so we were all bused from, well, they were bused from High Springs to A.L. Mebane.
Mhm.
And there was another school in Newberry, and the north end of the students from that school came to A.L. Mebane, and the other end, must have been the south end,
Mhm.
were bused to Lincoln. So it was actually 3 schools, and so there were some new, we met a lot of new students.
Sure.
But, we were the ones that were the Alachua students. So we, it was us.
You you were the ones that no one else messed with?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that, came to us for directions and
Uh-huh.
for advice and of course the teachers. Yeah. Our homeroom teacher, Lois Harrison was her name. She was Lois Young then. And Mr. Valentine. Mr. Valentine was from High Springs.
Uh-huh.
And Lois was, I think this was her first year teaching. She was just out of college. But she was a homeroom teacher for the seniors, and she was the typing teacher. And of course, she wasn't much older than we were, so
Right.
we were sort of, she showed us the ropes, or we showed her. I don't know.
Well, so I know you're very active in the Alumni Association and, working to preserve the history.
Yes.
I guess it was about 13 or 14 years later in 1970 when the federal courts, insisted on integration.
Exactly.
And do you recall that time period? And
Do you know, I have learned a lot about that time period, but at that time, I was, in 1970, I was working as a registered nurse at the VA hospital.
in Gainesville?
In Gainesville,
Yeah.
yeah, I was back here. But what we had, the 14-year period that A.L. Mebane was a high school is documented, for lack of a better word, in memorabilia
Right.
that's in a room at A.L. Mebane.
And the public can
And the public
visit
can visit with. We have to give Mrs. Carter, give her the praise for encouraging the Alumni Association to do that.
And what happened did Mebane just stop being a high school in
No,
1970 or?
In 1970, as you said, the federal government insisted that integration take place. So it was February 1970, the senior class had to, well, all of the high school, but had to go to Santa Fe.
Oh.
That's what happened.
Uh-huh.
And the school, A.L. Mebane, was designated middle school. And so...
And it's still
And it's still, it's there.
operating.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When you were a student in 1957, when you were a senior ruling the roost, and did you think about African Americans going to one school and white children going to another school? Were you?
I thought of that more when I was an elementary student at Ogden School.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I thought of it more is because the white students that lived in Bland were bused to Alachua.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no school in Bland for white students.
I see.
The black students had the school, Ogden, and we walked. And I believe we lived the furthest away, probably, because we lived all the way on the Santa Fe River, which was, I believe, 3.5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And the bus would pass us. And I couldn't understand why, especially first grade, second grade, why we couldn't ride the bus that was passing us going closer to our house than we were at that time, closer than the school. And so, but I got to the point, and I don't know if my parents said, well, that's just the way it is now,
Mm-hmm.
and you accept it. So when I was, by that time, then of course, when we were bused, we, okay, we have a ride. Now we don't have to walk. But of course we couldn't walk to Alachua, which was about 13 miles away.
I'm trying to imagine school kids these days walking 7 miles round trip to school.
Yeah. Yes, rain or shine, too. Rain or shine.
So you mentioned the room where all of this memorabilia is, so
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's been an effort by, I'm sorry, what was the woman's name that you mentioned that you wanted to shout out to?
Vita Carter.
Uh-huh.
She's now a principal over at in Hawthorne.
So is the Alumni Association,
Yes.
active about keeping
Yes,
that history
we
alive?
are. Yes, we
Yeah.
are. I'm the chairman of that, chairperson of the committee
Mm-hmm.
that does a lot of work in there. And what we have done, we have the history with all 3 of the principals that were principals during the time the school was, the high school. We have background information from Douglas High School, Alachua County Training School. We don't have any from Newberry School. That's what we still have to work on, that north end. So we need some information on that school. We don't have any information on it, but we have information on all the principals, the classes, the graduation pictures, we call it, our wall of graduation.
Mm-hmm.
So those 14 pictures are there.
And do you have old photographs of
We
the
have
school?
old photographs, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
We'd like you to come and see it.
I'd love to come. It's just so important that that kind of thing be saved and documented, and
It is.
you seem to have quite an appetite for history. I
I
noticed
do.
you're on the county's historical board too, aren't you?
Yes. That happened through, we have a historical marker about Ogden School. Well, it's a two-sided one.
Mm-hmm.
Ogden School is on one side, that information about the school, and then information about Bland community itself is on the other side.
I just love all these, you know, you've got the official cities in Alachua County, but you've also got all these other areas that have their own names that are just so rich in their history.
I agree.
Well, Mrs. Robinson, thank you so much for taking a moment and coming to talk to us.
Thank you. Well,
I'm really encouraging our
inviting
viewers
us.
to get out there and see this special room where all this memorabilia is. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
SocialSecurity.gov is so friendly.
It makes the crankiest Klingon smile.
Are you ready to go?
Almost. I just got an invitation to follow the county on Facebook. I've been trying to find out what's going on with the county budget.
Well, hurry up. We're going to be late.
We can get updates about county news, job openings, and hey, they even send out links to view meetings live online. I have to sign up.
Come on.
Okay, just have to get my shoes on. Honey, where are my shoes?
We used to write letters to each other a lot, and it was intimidating to talk to him sometimes because he just seemed so isolated by himself.
She started talking about how she wishes that her life was over and she wishes that she was never born.
So I knew he had depression, but I didn't know it was that far.
Said something to me about killing himself.
Tell somebody, tell an adult, a counselor, parent, whatever.
You have to try and help them get help.
You have to take it seriously. You can't assume that they're just saying it because the risk is too great.
It's a hard situation because you do risk making that person very angry and losing their friendship.
It would have been horrible for me if she never talked to me again, but I'd live with it because I know she'd be alive.
Definitely worth getting help, even if you think you're going to lose a friendship, because it's better to lose the friendship than the actual friend.